Viktor Gyokeres is finally on his way to Arsenal. Well, fingers crossed, it's not been confirmed yet. We've not seen him holding the pen, not seen him with a contract in front of him, but all the signs are the deal is going to go through. I mean, he's wanted Arsenal for so long, and Arsenal finally got over the line in negotiations with Sporting. This one, barring an Arsenal style collapse, if you like, will go through eventually. So, like I say, there's no confirmation yet. We've not seen the pictures of him holding up the shirt, but from the perspective of just Arsenal supporters, can we now get carried away and celebrate this signing?
Oh, I don't know if we can go that far until, like you said, you don't want to curse it or anything like that by going too strong. But look, it is very close now. We've had a significant breakthrough, obviously on Sunday. Those talks really did move things forward. Gyökeres' agents are over here now, sort of thrashing out the finer details of the deal. Everything kind of with the players already been sorted. That's been done a long time ago. It's just the really sort of the annoying stage now of just getting those last kind of little bits sorted with Sporting in terms of the exact add-ons and all of that, how exactly it's going to work. But in principle, the deal has been agreed, which is the real positive thing. So it's taken a giant step forward now. He is virtually an Arsenal player. But at the time of recording this, on Tuesday morning, he's not yet. You can't yet completely celebrate it because wilder things have happened in the past of transfers where the players are literally had their media photos taken and not even ended up signing. So you can't celebrate it just yet, but look, we are very close. Arsenal fans can start practicing that celebration. I would say right now that I'm certainly expecting Viktor Gyokeres to be an Arsenal player, potentially by the end of the week. But until it's done, then we can't say for certain.
Yes, actually, 12 years before this call began, I joined with I was practicing my own Gyökeres celebration as Charles jumped on. And, the deal itself, like you say, it's not gone through yet, but there's been so much it's been a soap opera, really, from Sporting side with the president's comments, Gyökeres not turning up to training, president saying he's going to be fined, and then also saying that it will make it more difficult for him to actually move. And then a day later, Arsenal make that breakthrough. And I think the total fee that's been quoted, if all the add-ons are hit, will be about between 60 and 65 million pounds. So, financially as well, how good a deal is that for Arsenal?
I think it's a really good deal. It's 55 million up front, give or take, and then, like you said, just under 10 million on add-ons. So, I know there's reservations about, who he's done it against, the league he's been playing in and all of that. But when you just look at his record and the sheer amount of goals he scored in the last couple of years and what he did in the championship as well before that, I think 55 million in the current market for a player, who's hitting his peak, 27 years, I think that's a good deal from Arsenal. They didn't blink. It's been a tough negotiation with Sporting that has played out, as you said, it's been a very public soap opera, but Arsenal didn't blink. They held firm. And I think they've got themselves a good deal. When you compare it to some of the other deals that are happening, when you compare it to what they probably would have had to spend if they bought Benjamin Sesko, you're talking £30 million less almost, something like that. So I think they've done themselves a good deal, which is something we've seen from them so far in this window. I have to say, they've bought well. I'm going to be really intrigued in terms of how they sell, which I think is probably going to be the next step after this week finishes. But it's a good piece of business. I think Andre Berta can probably pat himself on the back right now. Obviously, this transfer is going to be judged by what Gyökeres does when he gets here. If he flops, then everyone will be looking at it and saying, "Oh, it's 55 million down the drain" and all that sort of stuff. But right now, I think it looks like a good deal, and that's all you can sort of class it on as it stands.
Yeah, you mentioned Sesko there because, of course, Arsenal did want to sign him last summer. He signed that extension with Leipzig. There was that consensus, I think, that that would precede a move maybe this summer. But from the reports that I've read and I'm sure you've read, it seems that Leipzig were just being unnecessarily playing hardball in negotiations, not budging from that. I think 78 million pounds asking price. But also at the same time, Gyökeres, he's been desperate to move to Arsenal. Like it's well documented how much he wants to move, the measures that he took to really force that move through. Whereas Sesko, we think he'd be open to joining Arsenal, but he's not gone to such great lengths as Gyökeres has. So of course the money does talk in this situation, but also how crucial would it have been, the fact that Gyökeres' will to move to Arsenal compared to Sesko's, do you think that was also a big factor in Arsenal's decision?
I think it would have played a factor. I think Mikel Arteta would have liked that, like the desire to get this move over the line. I think he's very big on that sort of thing. So I think it would have been a factor. I don't think it's the only factor, but I think he would have looked at that and just seen that desire to come back and prove people wrong. Like I thought his interview with L'Équipe at the weekend, Gyökeres, was really interesting when he talked about. You mentioned the word revenge when he talked about the Premier League. He'd been here for a long time with Brighton, didn't get a sniff at the Premier League, and he obviously looks back on that time and wants to prove to people that a Brighton made a mistake and that he can cut it in this league. And he talked about how he believes he's up there in the best strikers in the world, and said that people are sort of devaluing his achievements because of what he'd done at Portugal. So there's a real sort of fire burning in him, certainly from what I've seen. And he kind of plays like that on the pitch as well. Whenever gets anywhere near the goal, you can see there's just a unwavering desire to score and just get that ball in the net, which I think as an Arsenal fan should be a really exciting prospect, because I don't think Arsenal have got enough of those players. They've got lots of quality players, but that absolute desire to score a goal, which sounds stupid, but I think every Arsenal fan will know what I mean by this. We don't really have that player in this Arsenal squad, and I think with Gyökeres, they will. He's certainly shown that in his time. Again, at Coventry as well, which shouldn't be undervalued that time at Coventry, what he did in the Championship, but certainly at Portugal, just to get the ball in the goal. And so I think the desire to move, how much work he put into getting this move over the line, combined with what we've seen of him on the pitch and the way he just desperately wants to score goals, I think that's a very sort of exciting combination for what we might see from him. I think we're going to have a player who's very, very fired up by the time he does get to the Premier League.
Yeah, because it does feel like maybe since Aubameyang's prime, Arsenal haven't had that sort of 20, 25, maybe even 30 goal a season striker. And, the attributes that he'll bring, like you said, absolutely phenomenal goal scorer, a brilliant ball carrier as well. He can create chances for others. But there have been some debates as to how he'll fit into Arsenal's system, because, of course, he's been thriving on the counter-attack, the transitional moments. He's now coming into an Arsenal team that are more patient with their build-up play, lots of passing in and around the box. So how well do you think he'll slot into this Arsenal team? And do you think it might take him a bit of time to get adapted to Arteta's demands?
I think it probably will. I think it tends to take players a bit of time to get used to what Arteta wants and how he trains and all that sort of stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing how he gets on in pre-season. We've got some big games coming up in pre-season against decent teams. You've got games against Tottenham, against Newcastle, against AC Milan, all those sort of teams. And it'll be intriguing if Gyökeres is through the door by then, which we hope he will be, how Arteta uses him, where he plays him on the pitch, how Arsenal play, because it's going to be a big change. I'm still not sure he's going to start early on in the season. I still wouldn't be at all surprised if we get to Old Trafford and it's Kai Havertz playing up front for Arsenal. But clearly he's going to play a lot of football, and he is very, very different to Kai Havertz. So Arsenal are going to have to adjust to him. He's going to have to adjust to them. I think the question marks over the style of play and all that, it's very well documented. A lot of people who watch him in Portugal mentioned exactly what you do there in terms of how good he is on the breakaway when he can sort of isolate a fullback over on that left hand side one on one, get it down the channel, drive into the central areas and score. We've seen him score so many goals like that. Not really going to get the opportunity to do that at Arsenal by the way they play and the way teams play against them. So, look, we're talking about it. So clearly Arsenal will be talking about it. Arteta will be talking about it. The analysts, the coaching staff, they'll be trying to work out a way that they can get the best out of Viktor Gyokeres playing the way they do and the way that players play against them. So it's going to be something we're going to have to all keep an eye on. It's going to be interesting to watch. Something Gyökeres is going to have to adapt to. But, end of the day, he just loves scoring goals. No matter where you play, who you're playing against, what league you're in, it's all about scoring goals. And the best strikers find a way to do that. And look, he's not going to score 40 goals a season. He's not going to score 50 goals a season like he did in Portugal. But if he scores 20, 25 goals a season, that's a very good return. It's exactly what Arsenal will be looking for.